This is the Jeff Jerina Show.
Hey, good morning and welcome back to the show. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, my name's Jeff Jerina, and on this podcast, my coaching and through my books and courses, I help Christians strengthen, share, and live out their faith so they can grow personally, thrive professionally, and make a lasting impact. And today's podcast is a fairly short episode, but one that I think is going to help you get moving or maybe even stay moving in the right direction. And what we're going to be talking about today is a virtue that most people admire in others, but many times they fail or forget to cultivate or even practice this themselves. What am I talking about? It's the virtue of initiative. Now, whether it's starting a business or finally launching a podcast or reaching out to that friend who needs encouragement, or maybe even sharing your faith with someone that you already know, or maybe someone you just met, the virtue of initiative is the spark that sets everything in motion. I mean, that's the thing that gets things going. Now, if you're someone who wants to grow spiritually, align your life with your faith, and live on purpose, this episode is for you. And I want to remind you here that if you haven't already, go take the Faith and Life Alignment Assessment, and you can take that at jeffjerina.com/faith and life alignment. Now, that's Faith and Life Alignment, no dashes, no underscores, no nothing. Now, this is a simple tool that's going to help you evaluate how your faith shows up in areas like your time, relationships, finances, habits, purpose, and even more. Now, here's another really cool thing about this. It's entirely free to take. And when you take that assessment, you're going to walk away with clarity and a proven game plan. Okay, so with that, I want to start this podcast with a quick analogy, and it's something I've been thinking about. Now, we could say that some people live with what we could maybe call a green light mindset, while others live in what we could say red light mode. And what I'm talking about here is green light people are individuals that assume that they're free to move forward unless God clearly says stop. And red light people assume they should wait until God gives them a loud flashing go sign, right? Now, here's the truth. Most of the time, God gives direction while you're in motion, while you're doing something, not while you're standing still. And so I wanted to put that in your mind here because you're not going to know if the business works until you start building it, right? You're not going to know if someone's open to hear the gospel message until you open your mouth, until you start sharing it. And you're not going to grow in some area unless you start learning about that area, until you really start to go and move forward in whatever that specific area of life is. Now, I talk about this exact same thing in my book, Faith Without Fear, and specifically how so many Christians want to share their faith. They have a genuine desire for others to hear the gospel and come to a saving faith in Jesus Christ. But a lot of individuals, in fact, most Christians never take the initiative to start the conversation. And when they do, most are shocked at how open people actually are to hearing their testimony and about hearing the good news of Jesus Christ. And I will tell you here, as an individual that shares the gospel, teaches others how to do that, teaches individuals, churches, schools, whatever, I will tell you that when individuals have taken my training, whether they've purchased the book, Faith Without Fear, or gone through my course or my individual group coaching, they're amazed how easy it is to do that and how open individuals are to hearing the gospel message. They never thought that before. Now, there's a lot that I cover in the Faith Without Fear book, including the reasons why people never share the gospel and the number one reason that keeps most Christ followers from never sharing their faith at all. And I also break down a simple, natural way to share your testimony, meaning how to share your personal story of salvation with someone else in less than 30 seconds. That's really all it takes. And a complete, easy-to-follow, step-by-step way to share Jesus with others. And in the book, I also have a free resource that I call the Pocket Gospel, as well as a companion course that you can take by itself or in conjunction with the book, as well as discussion questions that you can go through alone or even with a small group or even in your church, as well as some actual witnessing encounters that are going to encourage and embolden you to share the gospel without fear. Now, to find out more about the book and the online course that has helped other Christ followers and churches share the gospel in a simple, natural way. All you have to do is go to jeffjerina.com/books/faith without fear. Now you got to spell that out. Faith without fear. Now, some of the things that you're going to learn in this book are that you don't need a seminary degree. You don't need to be a pastor. It doesn't matter how young or old you are. You don't need to be a biblical scholar. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need the courage to move. And so with that, I want to give you a definition that I found here on the internet for this virtue of initiative. And here's the definition. It's actually 3 parts. The first part is, it says it's the ability to assess and initiate things independently. And I guess second mini definition would be the power or opportunity to act or take charge before others do. And the last one, it says it's an act or strategy intended to resolve a difficulty or improve a situation, a fresh approach to something. Now, I like all these, but the 2 that really hit home for me are the first and the last one, because as someone as a visionary, an entrepreneur, and a content creator, these 2 right here, the ability to assess and initiate things independently, you have to have those. And the last one, I would say, the act or strategy intended to resolve a difficulty or improve a situation. I can tell you as an entrepreneur, as a creator, somebody that's trying to get things going, initiator, you're going to have to improve a lot of situations, right, to get things better. And so with that, if we're looking at initiative, we have to understand that taking initiative doesn't mean you have all the answers. But it does mean that you're willing to trust God with the next step, even if you're unsure about step 7, step 10, whatever that, down the road steps are. So how do you live this out practically today? I want to give you just 3 ways that you can do that. Now, there's probably a lot of other ways that you can do that, but I just want to give you 3 practical ways that I can think of right now. The first one is start where you are with what you have. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And what I mean by that is don't wait until the timing's perfect. And we know here on other podcast episodes, there will never be a perfect time. It just will never happen. So use what God has already put in your hands. Maybe it's an idea, it's a skill set. Maybe it's a story, your own personal story of salvation. Maybe it's an experience. Maybe it's a person that He's placed on your heart. That's the first way. The second way here is to choose obedience over overthinking. Now that's a big one there, because I have a tendency here to overthink. What's the adage? It's the paralysis of analysis. I can tell you I have that. So as we're thinking about this way right here, what's that idea that you keep circling back to, that you keep thinking about? And maybe you just need a nudge to move, to act, to get going forward. Or maybe there's an opportunity for you to encourage someone, or maybe to share Jesus with somebody else. Now, that's not just your brain, what you're thinking here. That might be God calling you to move forward. And so I would say this, don't ignore it. I would say act on it. And so the third practical way here is to put something into motion today. Send that text message. Write that email. Create that first draft, the outline, whatever it is. Publish that blog post. Open your laptop and start typing. Create that invitation. Start small, but do something that turns intention into action. Now, if you're waiting for someone to tell you it's time, maybe right now, this podcast episode, maybe this is your sign. And I want to close here with some other stuff here. Initiative is faith in motion. It's you trusting that God can steer the wheel once you're moving. You don't need a clear or full map. You just need to take the first step and trust that He's going to meet you there, because I believe He will. And again, if sharing your faith is something that you struggle with in the past, or maybe even struggling with now, I wrote my evangelism training book, Faith Without Fear, How to Share What You Believe with Confidence and Power, years ago, to walk you through exactly how to do it in a natural, practical way without feeling awkward, sounding weird, or, just being afraid. And so to find out more about the book and get your own copy today, go to jeffjerina.com/books/faith without fear. So here's the question, right? What's my next step? What's your next step? What has God already nudged you toward, but you've been waiting on? Today's the day right now to stop waiting and start moving. And thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast episode. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast. And please don't forget, go take the Faith and Life Alignment Assessment at jeffjerina.com/faith and life alignment. Now, you're going to get instant clarity and practical insights on where your faith and life may need realignment right now. Until next time, keep moving forward, take initiative, and live boldly. God bless.